Hello. I thought I'd make a little greeting today because it's the 36th anniversary of my sobriety date, May 8th, 1987. So it's kind of a big deal uh, in the way of huge, huge gratitude. And of course, I reflect upon my weird little journey in life. I'm also, I posted a piece recently. I wrote an Angelus column about a recent visit I took to San Miguel de Allende, beautiful, beautiful Spanish colonial town in Mexico. And as usual, it was kind of impressionistic and sort of my thoughts and reflections as I wandered about. And this guy, wonderful guy, I'm sure, he's a tour guide or has a tour uh, business or something like that. So he comments a couple of times on my blog post when I posted it about how, uh, sort of taking me to task for not understanding what the statue of Jesus on his knees meant, as if I don't know that I'm not steeped in the crucifixion and Jesus falls for the third time, etc. And this kind of and maybe I took it the wrong way, but to me it was a kind of patronizing. Oh, why don't you learn a little bit more about the place that you're visiting? And so it made me reflect. And he's probably right. He's probably right in many ways, or that may be kind of the mainstream. I mean, first of all, any kind of history is really probably my absolute lowest suit. I literally maybe know three dates in world history. One of them is 1492 when Columbus sailed the ocean blue. 1066, the Norman conquest, which I'm not even sure what that was. Something to do with France, I think. Um, I know 1776, of course. I have the general idea of the dates of World War One and Two. It's just not. I'm all about story and feeling, and so I don't approach anything. I can never keep stuff straight when there are wars, for example. My mind just clouds over. I can't really absorb anything unless it has to do with like a feeling or an emotion. So anyway, so consequently, I'm not really a tour guide type person. And also to me, it's just too confining. Even though I enjoy knowing sort of trivia and it's wonderful, it's just not my thing. But how I do travel is I walk. That's really kind of how I go through life. I mean, I looked at my one day in San Miguel, I walked 25,000 steps or something like that. It's like 12 miles, you know. I mean, my day is I get up, I pray the office, read that day's liturgy. I have, especially at this age, there's so much work you have to do. Just keep yourself physically in shape. So, I'll do some stretches or a little yoga or something like that. Um, and then when I'm traveling, I'll just set off, and I absolutely have a general idea of, I'll have my map or my phone with the map, and general idea of stuff that I might want to see, but I'll just walk, and that's how this guy was like, "Oh, why don't you learn a little more? Maybe you'll understand what you're experiencing," and I'm like, "Dude, I'm 70 years old. Like, trust me, I kind of know what I'm experiencing, and I experience things by walking. Like, to me, that is a way I always think of walking as a way of I'm leaving a bit of my body and blood behind, uh, you know, just like the burning of calories or however you want to put it. You leave a little vapor trail of your own incarnate body when you walk, and you absorb the rest, the other, the world, the people who live in it, the mystical body. So to me, it's an exchange. And as I'm walking, I'm smelling and I'm peering through doorways, I'm looking at the trees and I'm hearing the birds and I'm absorbing how the spirit of the life of a place, the kind of zeitgeist and the Holy Spirit and how people sort of live and move and have their being. And I just kind of explore. I mean, often have a certain place. Oh, I want to see this garden or I want to go to this church or whatever. Um, And I think, as a Catholic, when I go into a church, I don't need to know. I mean, it's fine if I want to know the provenance of a certain statue, but it's like, no, I totally get it. I'm a suffering, desperate, lost, glorious human being. Like, I don't need to have the meaning of a statue of our bloody beloved Christ crawling on his knees. I get that. I totally get it. I don't need it articulated. So, um, yeah, it's just kind of, as you can tell, yeah, my back goes up a little bit. It's just, but more to the point, no one's. It's not like I'm right and he's wrong. It's just, it made me reflect upon the way I move through the world, and this, in a way, reflects upon sobriety and uh, because I have a very like highly tuned nervous system, it's always been that way. Um, and I've also always been a major, major introvert. I mean, I look back when I was a kid, my fondest memories when I go, or I should say, if I go, I just think heaven for me would be a summer afternoon on the in Rye, New Hampshire, on the seacoast, Ocean Boulevard, where my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, had a house, Nana, and Pa, as we called him, her husband, my grandfather. And I got to go there as a kid. I came from a big, we had 8 kids in our family, but I would, for some reason, get to go there. I mean, there probably weren't 8 kids yet, and I would just pack my little bag, and I'd have a little book and probably, my toothbrush. And Nana was great. She was a gardener. She's a super hard worker. And she would just let me roam. In those days, you just wandered. I would walk across Ocean Boulevard. It's the main, it's like Route 1A in New Hampshire. Um, I just walk across, it's probably 5 or 6 or something. I'd be like, Nana, I'm going to go over to the tide pools or whatever. Okay. Um, and I would just to be by myself and really bask in sort of existence. I mean, I think that is a prayer, maybe the deepest form of prayer. I, of course, wasn't able to articulate it as such at the time, but just I would sit with my little bare feet in these little tide pools, and you'd get these teeny little crabs that you could look at in the ocean, the waves, you could hear it, the waves rolling in and the rocks rattling on the beach and the seaweed and the salt air. And meanwhile, you look up to Nana's house and there'd be these splashes of color because, as I said, she was a gardener. So there'd be hollyhocks and tiger lilies and peonies and I think they were more like June cosmos, and she had bachelor buttons and Jack in the Pulpits and all these great old school uh, New England flowers. And I remember there was this little, she had this whole bed. There was a long driveway that went up to her place, and so it was all, like a perennial bed along there. And there was this blue spruce, and I would go under the, you could kind of like crawl under, because you're so little, and I'd crawl under, and it was like a bower or a cathedral. I mean, you'd be hidden because the branches of a blue spruce kind of come down to the ground, or these did anyway. And so I'd crouch under there, and there were these little stands of lilies of the valley, so kind of angelic and so evocative of, like, kind of corny, great children's, photos of like children and Jesus. um, but lilies of the valley, they smell super sweet, and they're just child size. It's a teeny these little drooping blossoms, white, pure white. And I look back, I just remember that, like, nobody knows where I am, and I'm totally by myself, and I love it, and it smells good, and it's quite, it's a sense of the sacred, really. Um, and I think I've been, chasing that all my life, and that is deep in my, cloistered heart. And so when I travel, or not just when I travel, my whole life, when I travel, I'm like kind of looking to connect with the rest of the world on that level. So yeah, a lot of walking, and walking, and it also, I think, in a sense, is, um, it's, I mean, it's the best kind of work. I love it, and it calms me down, and but it is, it's harder, for example, than you're exerting more energy, let's say, than if you sit in a tour bus, for example. Not that there's anything wrong with that at all, but the point is, everything is ordered to this kind of like a life that is in some sense, very, very loose sense, like a sacrifice that is geared toward, simply because you're conscious of it, and everything that you do is ordered toward this sacrifice, which goes toward reconciling, of course, myself, but the rest of the world as well, to the broken world, reconciling it to wholeness, to light, to God. Um, so um, I think that's, yeah, that's kind of the, um, yeah. If I can do things a way that's a little bit harder, I'll do that. Just as a very small, yeah. If I can walk when I can drive, I will definitely walk. I think comes partly from, I'm from a working class family. My father was a bricklayer, and I think that stuff is deep, deep within you. Of being thrifty and not wasting, and um, being grateful. Uh, and I think this is a whole other subject that maybe I'll do a thing on it. The other thing is, I'm celibate. I've been celibate for a long time, many years, 20 something years. Again, that's a whole was a long, 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 torturous journey. But now, very, very consciously, this is part of my offering of my body and blood that I laid down for the world, and to reconcile the world once again. To me, it's a deeply life-giving. I mean, I'm way more sort of fruitful, and I feel like my whole being is way more life-giving than I was in my my, I don't want to say former life. It's a But yeah, I mean, a long period when I was not celibate at all. I was married also for 14 or 16 years or something like that. So this all goes to travel, especially. I mean, my daily life as well. So anyway, that's why. Um, yeah, I'm just not the kind of person who's probably gonna like stand in a tour just because my eyes would glaze over. It's like I'd be in a tour and I'd be instantly wanting to know, like I'd be examining the person beside me and kind of wondering what their story is and stuff like that. It's just not my way. So, and I don't want to say my way is deeper, because that's not necessarily, of course, true, but it's the deepest way for me. It's not, it's very, very conscious and thought out and deeply, deeply felt and intentional, uh, etc. Hopefully in a way that's not like, OCD and look at me and stuff, but it just, the guys, this lovely man's comment somehow got me to thinking of how it is that I travel. So yeah, San Miguel was absolutely primo. I loved it, and I do hope to go back. So anyway, um, grateful for 36 years, and may the journey continue. So thanks for listening and being here, and have a beautiful day. And I know we all have something big to celebrate every day. Okay, thanks.